The school hall buzzed with excitement, filled with the lively chatter of students and teachers, all busy making final preparations for the much-anticipated annual talent show. Laughter echoed off the walls, footsteps hurried across the polished floors, and the energy in the air was electric. Among the bustling crowd, one figure remained noticeably quiet: Emily Carter. A reserved and unassuming girl, Emily preferred the solitude of the library's dimly lit corners, where she would lose herself in the pages of books or the quiet companionship of her father, Mr. Carter, the school janitor. Unlike the other students, Emily was often overlooked, treated as if she were invisible. Some ignored her entirely, while others weren't so kind, whispering behind her back, mocking her for her worn-out clothes and the fact that her father cleaned the very hallways they walked through. The teachers, though never openly cruel, hardly acknowledged her presence. To them, she was nothing more than the janitor's daughter. 1 week before the talent show, Miss Parker, the music teacher, was animatedly discussing the lineup of performances when her gaze landed on Emily. A smirk played on her lips. "Emily, why don't you perform something?" she suggested, her voice laced with amusement. "How about the violin?" A ripple of laughter spread among the other teachers, their chuckles blending with the students' giggles. It was a joke. Everyone knew Emily could never afford something as expensive as music lessons, let alone a violin. "Yeah, Emily, play us something," a boy sneered, his words dripping with mockery. Emily's eyes darted between Miss Parker and the laughing students. The taunts, the smirks, she took it all in. But instead of anger, her face remained calm. Then, to everyone's shock, she simply nodded. "All right, I'll play the violin." Silence. For just a moment, the laughter stalled, as if her words hadn't quite registered. Then, another wave of chuckles and whispers spread through the room. Miss Parker raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Well," she shrugged, her voice carrying a note of amusement, "if you can find a violin, you're welcome to perform." What none of them knew, what no one even suspected, was that Emily had already been playing the violin in secret for years. At the age of 8, she had stumbled upon a discarded, broken violin lying in the trash. The wood was cracked, the strings were frayed. It was barely recognizable as an instrument. But Emily had seen something in it, a chance, a dream waiting to be mended. She brought it home, and her father, with careful hands and unwavering patience, worked tirelessly to repair it with whatever scraps and materials he could find. It was far from perfect, but when she held it, it felt like magic. From that moment on, every night after school, Emily would slip into the janitor's closet and practice, following online tutorials, listening to classical music, and perfecting her craft in absolute secrecy. The night of the talent show arrived, and the gymnasium was packed. The air buzzed with anticipation as students took turns showcasing their skills, some belting out songs, others twirling across the stage in carefully choreographed dances, and a few displaying their musical talents with various instruments. Then the moment came. Next up, Emily Carter. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. "Wait, she's actually going to play?" someone whispered. Eyes turned toward the stage as Emily stepped forward, clutching a sleek, polished black violin. But it wasn't the old, worn-out one she had played for years.
No.
A few months ago, her father had saved every spare penny he could, sacrificing his own needs, just to buy her a well-kept, second-hand violin from a pawn shop. She took her place at the center of the stage. The lights above cast a soft glow over her face as she positioned the violin under her chin. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then the bow met the strings. The very first note sliced through the air, commanding absolute silence. The hall, once alive with whispers and chuckles, was now frozen in place. The sound, rich, deep, filled with raw emotion, flowed effortlessly from her fingertips. Every note wove a story, each stroke of the bow pulling the audience further into a melody so hauntingly beautiful that it sent chills through their very souls. The teachers, who had once dismissed her, sat in stunned silence, their smirks erased and replaced with slack-jawed awe. Miss Parker's face turned pale. The students who had once mocked her exchanged uneasy glances, their laughter now a distant memory. Emily was lost in the music, pouring her heart and soul into every note, every movement. It wasn't just skill, it was something far greater. It was passion, it was pain, it was perseverance, it was a sound born from years of dedication and silent struggle. By the time the final note hung in the air, the entire room was holding its breath. And then the eruption. The audience exploded into applause, a standing ovation. Some students clapped so furiously their hands turned red, while others whistled and cheered, their faces filled with admiration. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she opened her eyes, scanning the sea of stunned faces. And there, amidst the overwhelming crowd, she spotted Miss Parker. The once condescending teacher was dabbing at her eyes, her face flushed with embarrassment. After the show, students who had never spoken a single word to Emily before now rushed to her side. "That was unbelievable," one girl admitted, her voice tinged with guilt and amazement. "I had no idea you could play like that." Miss Parker hesitated before approaching, her usual confidence now replaced with uncertainty. Clearing her throat, she murmured, "Emily, I had no idea you were so talented. That was remarkable." Emily simply smiled. "Thank you." At the back of the hall, Mr. Carter stood quietly, his eyes glistening with pride. That night, as they walked home, he gently squeezed her shoulder and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." But Emily's journey was far from over. The very next day, she was called to the principal's office. Sitting across from him was a well-dressed woman, her hands folded neatly in her lap, an expression of pleasant surprise on her face. "Emily," the principal began, a rare smile stretching across his face. "This is a representative from one of the most prestigious music academies in the country." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "They want to offer you a full scholarship." Her hands trembled as she took the letter being handed to her. She could barely process the words. A full scholarship. A chance to study music at an elite academy. A future she had never dared to dream of now right in front of her. The janitor's daughter. The girl they had laughed at. The girl they had overlooked. She was about to prove them all wrong.